Okay. Well, everybody, I'd like to thank you for coming. This is the live web chat with our leadership and management team. We are so thrilled to have Professor Ed Hubbard and Professor Carmen Bonilla, who will be our main host and co-presenters. And then they will introduce a really wonderful student panel, well-versed in the field and major of leadership and management. So without further ado, I'm going to mute my audio button. And if everybody else who isn't speaking, with exception to, of course, Professor Bonilla and Ed Hubbard, to please mute their audio, we will begin the presentation. Professors, please begin.
Okay, thank you. So let me get the slideshow going here. All right. So Lucy, I'm going to depend on you. If there's any issues with the visual quality or whatever, please interrupt and let me know. So welcome everyone. I appreciate you spending a few minutes of your late afternoon with us. So what I'd like to do, let me move one of my panels over so I can see my slides. There we go. All right, so I want to focus for just a few minutes on the major and the concentrations that we offer from the Management and Global Business Department, and just make a short pitch for why the leadership and management major might be valuable to you, and then talk briefly about potential career paths. So just by way of backdrop, I think everyone understands that business has changed dramatically in the last 5 to 10 years. So businesses, they tend to be much more flexible, much more fluid. There's much greater emphasis on collaboration and teamwork. And the implication for managers is that historically within a business, typically there is a very strict formal hierarchy. And so managers were able to assume authority primarily on the basis of the position that they occupied in the corporate ladder, if you will, the organization chart. And it's a lot different now. So organizations, they tend to be more informal, and for managers to be effective, they need to have the ability to work with others on an informal, really boss to subordinate, but often colleague to colleague, and they need to be able to influence other members of their team in order to achieve managerial objectives. So the job of being a manager these days is a bit more complicated and a bit more sophisticated than it was perhaps 10 to 20 years ago. So what we heard when we talk to employers, and Rutgers has the benefit of having a lot of very strong relationships with employers in the New York metro region. And so obviously employers come to the business school to recruit our students. And in the process, we have an opportunity to ask recruiters, what do they value when they're here to find students to fill positions that they have in their organizations. And so what we hear from recruiters is that they want students, they want employees who are able to solve problems, who can think critically, who can work well with others, influence others, and basically to understand all of the different dimensions of a business. And by and large, the recruiters are telling us that Rutgers is doing a very good job in this direction. So I'm not going to go through all the quotes here, but there's a number of recruiters that, as I said, do come to our business school to hire managerial talent. So Prudential, Johnson & Johnson, L'Oreal, Deloitte, those are some of the names of companies that are on the top of my head that have very strong recruiting relationships with Rutgers. And one of the key ideas here is that if you choose to focus on a major from our department or perhaps a concentration, this gives you the ability to essentially offer a double threat to employers. You have the ability to balance any functional or technical skills that you have in an area such as finance, accounting, marketing, supply chain management, whatever, and to balance that off with the leadership and managerial skills that involve more of the soft skills, the critical thinking, the ability to influence others in teams and so on. And that's absolutely something that will be valuable to you, that will help your position when it comes time to putting yourself on the job market. So more specifically, What kind of major and concentrations are available to you from the management department? Well, we do offer one major. It's called Leadership and Management. I'll talk briefly about that. And then we also offer 3 concentrations in global business, entrepreneurship, and leadership skills. There's a lot of overlap between the leadership skills concentration and the major in leadership and management. So that's kind of an either or. You cannot choose both a major in leadership and management as well as a concentration in leadership skills. But if you care to, you absolutely could choose a major in leadership and management and perhaps combine it with concentrations in global business and entrepreneurship. So as you were coming on to the video conference, I think I heard that most of you are already in the business program at this point, so I think you're very familiar with the terminology, but just to make sure we're all on the same page, everyone knows what a major is. A concentration is sort of the term we use at Rutgers for what other schools might call a minor. So what you're seeing here is the short menu that we offer of both the major as well as the minor or the concentrations. Focusing on the major, specifically the leadership and management major, this is a 15-credit curriculum. So I think because most of you have been at Rutgers for a while now, you're familiar with the fact that most courses are 3-credit courses if they're a full semester course. So the credit requirement for the leadership and management major is 15 credits, which works out to 5 courses. One of the courses is required, that is the executive leadership course, and then you have to choose at least 2 courses from the following 6 that you see here, and then up to 2 courses from a list of 12 electives. So not quite enough space in this slide for me to fit all the possible 12 electives, but there's quite a lot of flexibility offered around the leadership and management major. And then for the concentrations, these are essentially the minors, as I described before. So for global business, this is all the concentrations are 3 courses or 9 credit requirements. So this particular concentration is going to help you develop a global perspective. So for students who have a keen interest in working in an international organization, whether you stay in the United States for your entire career or perhaps take overseas assignments, this could be a very valuable concentration for you to pursue. There's one required course, 3-credit course, Global Management and Strategy, and then you choose 2 electives from the list that you see here. We also offer an entrepreneurship concentration. So for those of you who might be interested in either traditional or classic entrepreneurship, or even perhaps what's called intrapreneurship, working within a corporation, but working within a entrepreneurial platform, this can be a really valuable concentration as well. It's very popular at Rutgers. There are 2 required courses, which will satisfy 6 credits, and then you need to take 1 elective from the menu that you see here. And then finally, as I had mentioned before, we do offer a leadership skills concentration. Again, you cannot combine this with the leadership and management major. However, if you choose to if you choose to major in a different functional areas, such as accounting or finance or supply chain management, this can be a really helpful concentration for you to add to your degree, because essentially you're signaling to employers that not only have you done deep coursework in a particular functional area, but on top of that, you appreciate the importance of management and leadership ability. And so you've taken the time to pick up a leadership skills concentration as well. So that can be a really valuable, powerful combination for you to achieve. For the leadership skills concentration, there's 1 required course in executive leadership. You need to take 1 of either leadership communication or negotiations. And then if necessary, you can take 1 additional course from the menu that you see here. So the skills that you'll acquire by focusing on courses from our department include what I had described before as the soft skills, personal skills, critical thinking, communication skills. Again, these will all be incredibly valuable skills for you as you advance through your career. And in terms of career paths, the sky's really the limit. I mean, you see some specific sectors in which you could pursue your career on this particular slide. But when you think about it, the sectors that you see here on the slide encompass pretty much anything that you might contemplate. And then in terms of specific types of functions, so if you were to major in leadership and management, some of the specific jobs that we've seen RBS graduates take in past years include management training positions, account executives working in banks, perhaps as branch managers, working as customer representatives, managers. Again, there's just a wide range of opportunity that's open to you. And I think that's it. I wanted to keep it pretty short and sweet. I know we have a fairly small audience today, but I'm happy to pause there and take any questions.
If you're interested in asking questions, you can either unmute your button, which I can go ahead and do for you manually.
I have one question.
Please, go right ahead.
So I chose leadership and management because I want to pursue in human resources, but I also heard that the School of Arts and Public Relations is better to pursue human resources if I choose. So I just would want someone to guide me in the right direction because I would want to do human resources in the future.
Okay, so that's a great question. So I'll offer my perspective, and just to share with you, before I started teaching at Rutgers, I've taught at Rutgers now for about 10 years, but before that, I spent 30 years in professional practice. So I had various executive positions in finance. So that's part of the perspective that I draw upon when I get questions like yours. So here's what I would say. I would say if you were to choose the leadership and management major, that would be a great choice to help position you for a job in human resources. But at the same time, even though I think a lot of people perceive that human resources is sort of a qualitative job, and the main required skill would be the ability to work with others and to deal with qualitative issues, just based on my experience, most people and most professionals in human resources, especially when you're working your way up the career ladder, there's going to be a lot of analytic work for you to do. So you'll definitely want to make sure that you acquire some basic fluency or competency in working with worksheets. You don't have to be a heavy duty quantitative analyst, but you have to be fairly comfortable working with worksheets. You need to be able to think critically and put PowerPoint presentations together that are presenting an analysis of a potential that you've done and presenting some very clear recommendations. And so I think if you were to pursue a major from our department, along with the other required coursework that you would have to do in the business school, I think that would position you really well for a job in human resources. That's not to argue that pursuing a degree from College of Arts and Sciences would be a bad choice. It's just that I think choosing to stay in the business school could be a very good choice for you. So I'm going to pause there and invite my colleagues to weigh in on that.
Oh, okay, thank you. That helps.
Sure. Yeah, Lucy, I'm guessing a little bit with career services. Is there anything that you might add to that?
So I would definitely say that Rutgers Business School, be it on the Newark campus or New Brunswick campus, offers you a very robust one-on-one career development advisement team. You're not sharing your resources with the entire campus. You have a dedicated team just for you, and they work with you on a one-on-one basis in a variety of ways. But aside from that, I do get students who ask me all the time, should I pursue a human resource, or should I go to the School of Management and Labor Studies and receive a degree as an undergraduate there? It's the same question as asking me, should I do management or sports management, right? These are like boutique-like majors. They sound really interesting. They sound really focused on a career that you could potentially obtain in your mind. You think you could obtain immediately just upon graduation. And in fact, it's the antithesis. Those majors are really watered down. They're really so laser focused on one aspect of management and leadership. Whereas if you go back to Professor Hubbard's slides, it really shows you the breadth and depth of the experience you're going to receive from the business school end. So I always say it's best to do a degree in leadership and management undergrad, and then on a graduate level, that's where you could think about, well, maybe now I want to go into something more laser focused. Maybe then you want to do a graduate degree in human resource, but I would not do the converse. The other reason I wouldn't do the converse is if you rely on something so heavily in your undergraduate degree, when you go out for a potential position, you won't be considered for upper management or even midline management positions. You will just be considered, if you go for human resource, you've now pigeoned yourself into human resource. So you have to be careful about that. So I would definitely say stick with RBS on an undergrad level, and then on a graduate level, you'll have a lot more job opportunities when you leave with RBS degree.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful.
Of course. Kevin, do you have any questions?
For now, no, I don't have no questions.
No worries. We just want to give everybody equal time. Absolutely. So now I guess
can I?
please.
Yeah, I also would like to mention to the previous student. This is Professor Bonilla. I have a student that I saw. She's doing a double major in global business and in the management and labor relations school. So she's doing, she's benefiting from both majors. That could be an option as well if you wanted to consider it, both the business school education and the management and labor relations education.
Okay, thank you.
I also wanted to say something to the speaker, or to the person who asked the question. I'm a RBS student, and one of the pluses that you'll get from being in RBS is you're going to be intermingled with a lot of different kinds of personalities, just like an HR person. So you'll be really in the middle of how people really talk, of what they think, and you're going to be HR, so you're going to be dealing with these real complaints that people oftentimes don't bring up to HR. And you'll also be learning about supply chain, you'll be learning about statistics, you'll be learning so many different things that you need to learn as an HR person.
Yeah,
that's an excellent point.
Yeah.
That's right. We have an entire business core. In addition to your major, you will have a course in every one of our majors. So you'll have a very good business core foundation even before you start your major.
I understand. Thank you for all of your opinions.
Sure. Professor Bonilla, did you want to introduce your student panel?
Yes, I would like to do that, and I would like to show some slides. How can I do that?
Okay, so you're going to go share.
Okay,
you're going to hit the share. There you go. Perfect.
Wonderful. All right, wonderful. So hello to our audience. I wanted to show you a couple of slides before we go into the student panel. By way of introduction, I wanted to share from my own professional experience, because similar to Professor Hubbard, here at RBS, you find professors who, like us, we bring a lot of professional experience. And here on this slide, I share with you logos from the companies that I have worked for, that have included healthcare companies, banking, consulting, insurance companies, and most recently teaching for Rutgers and NYU's professional school. In addition to the schools that I have attended and other certifications and organizations that I have been part of through my professional career. And so this is an advantage that we bring to you as instructors to you during your undergraduate degree, in the sense that we can share with you from our actual professional experience. And we share with you from the lessons we have learned, from the knowledge that we have about industry. And that is something that students appreciate very much. I'm very excited personally to be part of this university. Just recently, we celebrated 250 years since our foundation, and it's definitely one of the oldest, the second oldest employer that I have had. The oldest employer that I had was a Japanese bank that goes back 400 years. The 250, it's still a lot of time. And I'm very proud and very excited to be part of this university. And I also love working with my students, love having fun. Here I'm showing you some selfies that I encouraged students from years ago to take of themselves. Look at them and the faces they made. And it's a lot of fun to join this community. We have a lot of fun. We learn a lot, and we help you get ready for your career. And so I would like to introduce you to three students that I'm very excited to bring to you. Ali and Luz are current students, and Amir graduated a few years ago. All of them are management and global business majors, and I wanted them to be able to share from their experience with you and to be available to you to ask any questions. So I would like to start by asking them, let me ask them some questions. These are questions that I imagine you may be thinking of. And so we will go maybe through 4 or 5 questions and then open it up to you for your questions. How does that sound?
That's fantastic. Who should we start with? Ali, do you want to start with? We'll start with you.
Yes. So I would like to ask to the three of you to please introduce yourselves. Tell us a little bit about yourselves. I'm curious and would love for you to share, how did you come to RBS? Did you start at RBS as first year students, or were you transfers? And tell us a little bit about your work experience so far.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Good, just making sure. My name is Ali. I'm a senior at the Rutgers Business School. I'll be finishing in May. For me, I've lived in Newark all my life. I came here as a transfer. I started in county, and then I got good grades, got a scholarship to come to Rutgers, Newark. So then I came here, and I also was working full-time to juggle both school and work. And then, yeah.
Wonderful. And to be sure, Ali, what's your major?
Management.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ali. Who would like to go next?
I can go. Hi, everybody. My name is Amir. I graduated from Rutgers in 2013, so it's 7 years, which is crazy to think about. I was a double major. I majored in theater as well as in management with a concentration in entrepreneurship. And I did that because I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I figured I wanted to do something pretty well-rounded. Eventually, through my connections, and I do attribute a lot of my career progress to Rutgers. And being so close to the city, I was able to parlay that into a internship in the city that turned into my first full-time job. And from them, now I am a sales manager at a tech startup. I don't even know if we're a startup. We've been around for 12 years now, but a tech firm called CB Insights. And I was actually a transfer from another four-year institution in DC.
Welcome, Amir.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Luz Gonzalez. I'm actually from Florida, and I went into college a few years ago, and then I stopped. I had a life. I traveled. I went to live in the Philippines for a few years, and then I came back, and then I moved to New Jersey, and I'm thinking, what can I do with my life? And I was like, oh, let me go back to college. I'm not sure. I went to Union County College, and from there I went to Rutgers because it's prestigious. It's been around for so long. It's the name is recognized. And I've been back and forth with Lucille Foster. I'm like, I don't know what I want to do. And she so patiently, so kindly went through all the majors with me, all the minors, all the concentrations. I ended up picking management because I just love people. I love dealing with people. So that's why when I mentioned earlier, you're going to be connected with so many different people when you go to RBS. It's exciting. It's exciting to see how different groups think and how they communicate. And so because of that, I also chose a concentration in entrepreneurship. I realized I've had so many jobs. I've, customer service, teacher, I was a realtor. And I realized that the entrepreneurship one was perfect for me because I love business. And it was so helpful because of the courses that I was in. I didn't realize I loved diversity and inclusion. I didn't realize that effective communication is a thing. It's a soft skill. And I learned that here at Rutgers. And so it's just helped me develop who I am. I've been able to develop through the teachers, through the faculty, through their network, through all their resources. And I'm like, oh my God, the whole world has been opening up for what I like personally. And along the line, I've been approached with a job. Do you want to do this job? And I'm thinking, yes. And then I have to go back, what is it that I really want? And I'm thinking, I can do something bigger, and especially connecting with Rutgers. So it's been very productive, very helpful for me, very enlightening and empowering, to be honest.
Thank you. Thank you, Luz. I'm wondering if Ali and Amir, if you would like to expand a little bit on how did you choose your major, what influenced your decision, what help did you receive to make this decision, and if you don't have more on that, you can also go on to tell us about what kinds of internship opportunities did you find?
Sure, I'll go first. So originally I did not go to college right after high school. I went straight to work, and I was working in the healthcare industry and getting a lot of experience with that. The company that I worked for was started at 15 offices, and then it jumped to 150. So that was a lot of experience, a lot of learning curves. So I grew really interested in that and learning how a business grows and expands, a lot of integration, acquisitions, things like that. I really got inspired to learn more and learn more and get more knowledge about that. On operations, that's the word I'm looking for. So I felt like I've reached like a certain point in my job where I kind of knew the ins and outs, but I wanted to still expand and learn more. So instead of just looking for another job, I was looking that or going back to school. So my friend, she convinced me to go back to school with her, do an orientation. So I went back. And with the money that I saved, I paid for county, got good grades, as I said, and got a scholarship. And then it came to Rutgers for the same thing, like Luz says. It's a prestigious name. Everybody recognizes the name. So I went back to school full time when I started with Rutgers. What influenced my decision for my major? Just wanting to learn more about operations. So I sat down with the financial an academic advisor, and he suggested entrepreneurship and management, especially later on in life. I do want something in HR. I was thinking grad school for HR. And yeah, with the support of my family, and I paid with school with scholarship and financial aid. As for internship, because I was working full time, I didn't like explore so much with the internships, but this semester I did. And one of the mentors that I was paired up with in RU Team Up, she actually offered me a job, and she's an industrial manufacturer who just expanded from fasteners to PPE. You know, high demand right now. So I just been crazy busy with that, learning everything about everything that I've like learned from operations and a small business and expansion and supply chain. I didn't know that would come in handy.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's wonderful. And I'd like to highlight for those of you who are listening to us that Ali is just telling us the story about how she was offered a job through a mentoring program she had access to on campus. How wonderful that is. I'm so happy to hear that, Ali. Thank you for sharing. And Amir, wondering if you would like to expand a little bit more on how you chose your major and what internship opportunities were available to you.
Absolutely. So can you hear me? I don't know if this is my earphones are working. Okay, great. So I was, like I mentioned before, I was a transfer, and I was in the state of just didn't know where to go. And so when I first came back to Rutgers, I was really into theater. And so I invested, and I was like, this is something, it might not make sense. I was a government major, a poli-sci major before. This might not make sense, but it's something I wanted to do. So I started to do that. And through that, one summer I worked in theater in New York City. And I was working as like a stage manager, associate producer, just trying to get a feel of what it's like to fully do this. And eventually I'd become a PA on a movie set. And when I was a PA on the movie set, this is why it's important, I sought out the executive producer of the movie. And he was a stage manager too, but he encouraged me. I was like, how do I get to where you were? He's like, go get your business degree. So I have both sides of the coin. So I have like the creative side with theater, but then also, understanding how a business is run, like how to operate a spreadsheet, things like that. So I came back, and that was the decision that spurred me to go into RBS. And so I had done that just to kind of build that foundation, but I already had, and my parents are have entrepreneurial spirits. Both of them own their own businesses, and it was always intriguing to me. And I think, if you really want to make money, you either have to move money or, have your own business. So I was like, I'm not good at finance, so I'll do that instead. And so the first class I took was Intro to Entrepreneurship, and that professor still to this day is a mentor for me. So through that is where I fell in love and understood, like he had a tech sales background. I had learned about tech sales from him. And he gave me the confidence to be like, hey, you can actually do this. Because I was very, I wasn't confident at all. I was, I was a theater major and a kind of lost soul at the time. And so with his kind of encouragement, as well as I went to the career development services and got my resume tightened up, I eventually used that resume, and just his ability, he was like, hey, just go to the business. Like I would look on Craigslist and to the internship portal, and he was just like, why don't you just go there in person? So I just like put on a suit and went to the city, to the place with my new resume that the career development services helped me write, as well as armed with so much confidence from Professor Kestenbaum that they hired me on the spot. And so that's when I got my first internship, and I interned for a year there before they hired me full time. And it was in marketing and sales assistant or something like that. Yeah.
What a beautiful story, Amir. A couple of things that jump out at me from your story. First, I'm so glad that you got the encouragement to pursue your business education from theater. I have actually heard sometimes in the entertainment field, business degrees are not that well understood. And so, that is fantastic. And I'm so happy for you that you got that encouragement there. And so great to hear of your experience of that professor helping you out, helping you develop your confidence, and giving you that guidance. Sometimes, from this side, as someone who teaches, sometimes we don't know the influence that we are making on others. I've had one student came back to me after taking a management class with me and said, "Professor, I realized during your class that management is what I want to do. And as a result, I changed my major." And I was like, wow, that's so great. It's such a beautiful connection. And so, Luz, earlier you shared with us the reasons you chose your major, and now I would like to hear from you. Tell me about the internship opportunities that you've had to test out this education, to continue to develop your skills.
Can you hear me? Okay. So regarding the networking, the reason I met Carmen Bonilla is because of a co-student that I have. And he was just talking about how great you were. And he's like, you got to meet my teacher. And through my friend is how I met you. And one of the things that I love about Rutgers is because it is so many teachers that are willing to help, willing to extend themselves. That's why they became teachers. And it was in one of my classes, actually, where we would do presentations that someone sat in and she reached out to me, Jasmine West from Rutgers, and says, Luz, we're part of a program called Center for Urban Entrepreneurship and Economic Development. And she says, would you like to do an internship with us? And I was just like, yes, I would love that. And so that's who I'm working with right now. I had another opportunity where Ali and I actually shared a teacher, Nancy Di Tomaso, great teacher, where she has a network and she says, someone from my network is looking for an internship, a person. So she sent us a blast email. Everybody got the same opportunity to apply, and I went to New York City to interview for it. It was a great opportunity, but I think I preferred the Newark version because it was so close at the time. But yeah, there's so many. If you want it, you'll find a way to get it, but you have to go for it. And that's the whole thing about business. You need business with any career you want, because the whole purpose is to do what you love and to be able to pay your bills.
And so can you tell us a little bit more, Luz, about what are you doing in that internship at the Center for Urban Entrepreneurship?
So they're hosting startups in the area. They had a program, Black and Latino in Technology. And they sent a blast email to people who would like to be part of a cohort where a foundation is supporting the cohort, and they only had to pay $300 for a 6-week program where they're connected with mentors, and they're learning all about pitch decks, how to present in front of investors, how to look at your financials, your business model. So I'm assisting. I'm making networking. I'm connecting with the people, supporting them in any way I can. I get to listen in on this program. I get to avail of it. So it's fantastic. I'm networking myself with Mukesh Patel, who's big in the industry, Jasmine, who's great to work with. And it's just a great opportunity, in my opinion.
Very cool. Very cool. I'm glad for you. Wonderful. All right. So let's see. What else shall I ask these 3 wonderful people?
If I may add something
Go ahead.
about also in my experience, when I started this school, I was very shy. I couldn't talk. I couldn't speak in front of people. I stuttered really badly. I still even get really nervous. But the experience in the school, because there's constantly group projects and there's constantly, you have to voice yourself and you have to stand out and you have to, because if you want to get anywhere, you just have to speak up for yourself. And it really teaches you how to do that, and just in network, because the school just goes so far beyond just your academics. It also goes into your personal life and your career life, just in case anybody.
Oh, that's a wonderful testimonial. And I know that public speaking is one of those areas that many of us want to focus on when we are in our undergraduate college career, right? We tend to come in, as Ali said, very shy and OMG, how do I speak in front of a large group? I'm wondering, Luz and Amir, this is something, this is a spontaneous question here. Do you have any similar stories of a skill that your undergraduate degrees has helped you develop? And I think, Amir, in a way, you alluded to that in developing your confidence. But if you would like to expand on, other skills that you feel are very important for your career and how you have developed those through college.
Yeah, I think the number one skill I learned is how to write an email. I think business writing is very different than creative writing, and I'd struggled with not making things pithy, with passive language in emails and not being direct. And I think there's a lot of other things I learned. I learned about credits versus debits, all the different accounting terms, and I don't use any of those today. What I do use is how can I create a presentation and have it be effective? And two, how do I write an email that's direct, clear, and is not fluffy, which, and especially in my world, you have to cut through the noise and be very direct because you're speaking with CFOs and CSOs of large corporations, and they don't have the time to read a soliloquy, which I probably would have written had I been still just doing the theater stuff.
Yeah,
I think that's the biggest impact.
That word, I make up, that word comes from your theater background. The soliloquy word.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. A nice long monologue.
Right. How about you, Luz? Anything that you would like to highlight?
Yeah,
in terms of
I'm similar to Ali. I'm so shy, and put it this way: when I was in elementary school, middle school, I was part of Future Educators of America. I had no problem standing in front of an empty classroom, but then have people sitting there, I would go like a turtle, right? Go into my shell. I couldn't, and the image I had in my head of what I sounded like or looked like was not what the feedback I was getting back from the students, because the teacher was so brilliant in saying they had to pay attention, they had to write feedback, and we had to be able to read it. So it's helped me tremendously coming out of my shell. Like Ali said, it's you who does it. Nobody's blocking you from doing it, and the majority of people are really waiting for others to step up. So it's your choice to step up, and there's a great platform to do it at RBS.
Thank you both. And so, Amir and Luz, I think both of you have alluded to this. Here on the call today, the students that are listening to us are admitted students to Newark. So I would like to give them a sense about how the location of the school in Newark has contributed to your experience. This is an urban environment. And, I'm curious about what are your thoughts in terms of the size of the school's campus, the number of students, even, the accessibility to internship and career opportunities. What are your thoughts on how this has contributed and added to your experience at RBS Newark? Who would like to start?
Hi. Okay, I'll start. Like I mentioned earlier, I lived in Miami. I lived in the suburb of Miami. I also lived in the Philippines, which is very much like New York City in the sense where it's a big city, it's concrete, lots of buildings. When I came to Newark, I was not brainwashed with ideas of Newark. When I would tell other people from New Jersey I'm going to Newark, they were like, "Oh my God, that's scary," and I was like, "It's beautiful. I'm in love with the area we're in. It's so safe. I find parking easily. Of course, you have to know the timelines and you go in, but the people are so kind and gracious. There's stores everywhere. The student environment is awesome, walking around, seeing students everywhere. There's other schools in the area as well. I feel so excited to be part of Newark, as Newark right now is developing into something even bigger. And I feel like I'm part of it before it gets New York status, for example. I'm even planning on moving there, to be honest. I've been looking at properties in the area because I'm so excited. Kearney, Newark, that whole area, it's beautiful. And we walk by this Newark museum all the time. And I ask some people, hey, have you gone into the museum? It's amazing. So and to be specific, RBS, the building itself, it's so convenient, it's so comfortable to be in one place, in one location, having study areas, having areas to eat. And now there's a Starbucks in there, of course, that makes it exciting for a whole bunch of other people. But I appreciate very much getting to know the city of Newark on a different level.
Wonderful. Thank you, Luz. Ali, would you like to go next, or Amir?
Ali, go ahead. No, Ali, you can go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, Luz, to comment about the museum, that was pretty amazing because I had like I said, I've lived in Newark all my life. I never went there until I went to school because it's free for students. But no, there's some really amazing stuff in there. If you ever get the chance, go. Absolutely. I, however, am not as fortunate as Luz in finding parking, so I avoid driving to school as all possible. But the thing, like Professor Bonilla says, it's an urban place, so there's such reliable transportation, public transportation, or Uber since I live close. To me, what everyone loves, especially because I live in the Ironbound section, food. It's everywhere, and you get the best food everywhere. And I just love the convenience of it because you have every major highway around you have every city around you can get to. It's just so convenient. And like Luz, I've traveled around a lot too because I get to fly for free, not bragging or anything. So I've been to a lot of cities. I've been to a lot of major cities, a lot of tourist cities, a lot of I go to South America a lot because I have family there. But it's just so unique here. And I think even the school is recognized for it in the nation about being one of the most diverse places. And you just encounter so many people from so many different cultures and backgrounds. And that is something I'll always talk about in Newark that I love, is you just meet everywhere from all kinds of the world. It's amazing.
Yeah. I think, Ali, when you say that you travel for free, I think you are inviting new friendships. People are going to want to be friends with you. Thank you for sharing. Amir.
Absolutely. I love Newark. My family has roots in Newark, so it's been a part of my life for my entire life. But when I got there, I think it was a healthy balance. It's not a huge campus, so there is this sense of community. It's extremely diverse, which I loved. Just being able to look into a classroom and just see so many different people, and doing business classes and presentations with people from all over the place, and just learning about like business customs from those folks, and just seeing what works there. It was super beneficial and helpful. I was again theater major, which is all the way on the other side of the campus, but it only took me 10 minutes to get to the business school, and if I was like a back-to-back, so that was always very helpful, and it wasn't like I had to take a bus to get to another place in the school. And then finally, I think the most important thing is just its access. Newark, as Luz mentioned, is it's a growing city. There's a lot of exciting things to do. I did social entrepreneurship, so there's so many different projects there right now that are really beneficial and that you can actually do as opposed to just talk about. And then you're 20 minutes away from the city. So I had an internship. I was getting paid $150 every 2 weeks, and I was able to get to the city with no problem, eat lunch, and still have classes. It was just very manageable being able to go back from the city with all of that, excitement and opportunity, but also be just very quick into Newark. It's a cool art scene. I really have a soft spot for Newark, and Rutgers, Newark specifically. It's like you feel like a community.
Yeah, totally. Fantastic. something that that I personally enjoy. I want to mention this and reiterate it. Ali mentioned it. Just the diversity of our campus, the diversity of the students. I like to say sometimes in my management classes, if I have a full class, I can have 45 students in the classroom, and I make a rough estimate. I may have 30 countries represented, and that is so cool. That is so, so cool. I really like that about, and it's one of the things that drew me to move to this area in the first place, just the diversity. And so, Amir, I'd like to start with you for the next question. Um, I'm wondering, how did the school help you achieve your career goals? I think you alluded to this before, but anything that you can expand. What services did the Services Office offer to you? Um, uh, Internships that you did, or the help from professors? I think you have alluded to these questions. Anything else that you would like to add on that topic? Because at the end of the day, career is very important. In my opinion, I think it's one of the biggest things, right, that we want to take from our education.
Absolutely. And I think, the reason why I'm in technology in the first place has to do with my time at RBS. I wouldn't have done that. I was planning on going back to film, which I hope to get to, but I'm having too much fun in this tech space right now. And I wouldn't have done that had my professor not had that experience, that real world experience, and being able to speak to the skills that I need to develop, whether it be from, being very direct, removing things like I believe, kind of like those little things that you take away from classes that just prepare you to become to appear and be buttoned up in the corporate environment. I think that was the biggest component of it. Of course, I leveraged career services. I didn't know what that meant. Before that, I had tried to just piece together my resume and try to do it on my own, and that's just the backwards way of doing things. You should go to people that know what they're doing as opposed to just trying to do it yourself. It just you'll get away from some very big traps in the process. From I didn't know to follow up on emails after interviews, like very basic things that if I didn't go to them, I definitely would have struggled in finding an opportunity. So I think it's a much more of the soft skills. Of course, I went into a marketing. My first company that I was a full-time sales rep, it was a marketing technology company. So knowing and taking marketing classes helped a lot, and piecing together why this platform or product would be valuable to our customer. So I think, like, if you think about what I took away from a specific class, marketing, internal marketing, and those marketing classes were very helpful. And I think it's just, grind. When you think about, like, especially in those entrepreneurship concentration classes, they're great, but there's a lot of work required in those. And to be constantly developing the skill on how do I, grind, or, have to get through all these different things, which is something you have to do in life, especially in sales. I think it would have just taken me a lot longer to accelerate my career. I was able to, in 6 years, get from SDR, which is a very entry-level position, to an AE, and now I manage a team of 9 AEs. And that acceleration wouldn't have happened had I not developed a lot of those soft skills and introductory skills from Rutgers.
Thank you. I want to reflect that back to you and point out for our audience that I'm hearing from you communication skills, how this education helped you get sharper in your communication skills, get more direct in communicating your message. I'm noticing in my way of thinking, I identify patterns, and I'm noticing, how you have mentioned that a few times. So, and it's very true. It's this is a very important part of business education, how do we communicate? How do we pitch our ideas? And you're going to see that we spend time and we practice this over and over again to help you get to a place where, you know, your confidence is there and your ability is there. Thank you, Amir. How about you, Luz? Questions about, you know, how did career services support you? How have professors supported you in achieving your career goals?
Well, you're exactly right about the communication skills. Two things. There, like Ali talked about, there's so much teamwork. We are constantly put into a team and asked to produce something. And if you don't know how to be a team player, if you don't know how to take charge, I mean, it's an opportunity where you can actually make your agenda, you know, the project, because oftentimes people kind of sit back, and this is the role where you can be a leader. You can start learning how to take charge in any situation. But one of the best things that had helped me is one of my teachers was talking about how one of his big auditorium classes, the students were not working well with each other. He was getting so much complaints. And he offered me the stage. I actually gave a lecture on emotional intelligence and team dynamics to 155 students for an hour. And it was so exciting for me because, like I said, I could be in an empty classroom and be happy, but put in the students, that's a whole nother issue. Well, Rutgers really supported me in being able to stand in my space and deliver a lecture where students they were so excited, they reached out to me afterwards.
Nice, fantastic. An opportunity to practice skill right there.
Definitely. And it's supporting me in my idea of my own entrepreneurship, my own ability. And I teach emotional intelligence. And one of the things that Rutgers has supported me in is being able to provide emotional intelligence in a sense that I could offer it to corporations. So I'm actually doing my first paid webinar to Pearson Education. And it's through Rutgers because I met her through the career fair.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Wonderful. And how about you, Ali? How has career services helped you? How have professors helped you in achieving your career goals?
For me, the biggest thing was networking, being put in touch with, you know, different people and set in directions. The thing that I utilized the most, because I didn't really do so much internship because I had a full-time job, was having people look at my resume. Professor Vania is one of those people that looked at my resume. And I know, so I had my executive leadership teacher, Dr. Patty Ipioli. She looked at my resume as well, and she helped me out. And also for having a certain GPA, I got invited to do that RU team up where they pair you up with a mentor, and that's how I met my current employer right now. So it was just being put in touch with the right people and meeting different people all over from the class as well as the professors, and that's, you know, that was invaluable to me.
Wonderful. And so these are the questions that that we had for the panel. I'm wondering if we had any questions from our audience. Anything else you would like to know or ask for advice on?
I'm unmuting your buttons, so please feel free to speak up if you know, you don't have to, but if you'd like, you can also use the chat button here if you want to write in a question. We want to leave the last minute of this talk for you if you have any questions.
Amir had to go for a meeting, but Luz and Ali are here. So any questions for Luz or Ali? Has this been helpful?
So anyway, I want to wrap this up by first thanking Professors Hubbard and Bonilla. That was a marvelous presentation. And I want to thoroughly thank each one of my student panel members for joining us. You really filled in a lot of questions that we all had regarding leadership and management. And I want to thank the callers for coming in. I know how busy, how tense these times are, and we really appreciate you stopping by for one of our live chats. So thank you. I'm applauding our speakers. Thank you so much.
Yes.